Hey everybody, Lisa Romano here, the Breakthrough Life Coach, and today I want to teach you about spiritual boundaries. So we all need boundaries. Boundaries help us feel safe. They help us identify our space in this physical reality versus someone else's space in this physical reality. If you struggle from codependency, you easily enmesh with other people. If you are an empath, you easily over-identify with how other people are feeling. So imagine we have these two cosmic spaces in time. But when you are a codependent, or if you have been narcissistically abused and you suffer from attachment trauma and abandonment trauma, and that's Alice groaning. She's in my office with me right now. And you want to feel seen, right? Because we're always trying to feel seen. It's normal. When you are that person, what's happening is your physical space and time becomes enmeshed with someone else's physical space and time. We get quantumly entangled in a very dysfunctional way. And spiritual boundaries as well as physical boundaries can help us detach and begin living our own interdependent lives where we can be around other people without this need to enmesh. We all have the ability to create a spiritual boundary, but not without conscious and deliberate thought. We all have the ability to monitor what we think, but not without the awareness that we were once unaware and living below the veil of consciousness, in darkness, in a state of unconsciousness, in a very unevolved state of awareness. Human beings have the ability to activate the prefrontal lobe, and when we do, we activate the ability to experience what's called metacognition. Metacognition gives us the ability to observe the way we think. And if you are on the healing path, if you're a spiritual warrior, if you believe that you've come here to transcend dark energies, if you believe that you've come here to figure it out and to finally merge with the self and live in peace and harmony and see love everywhere and exude love, then developing your ability to set spiritual boundaries will help you achieve this state of oneness. Spiritual boundaries are not about punishing people. You need the power of discernment in order to create a spiritual boundary. So discernment means that I have learned to come from a state, an intended state of love and light, and I intend to identify people in my life who are on the same path as me, who may not be on the same path as me. I have the right and the duty to myself to understand what players in my lives are draining me, and I have the right to heal those relationships now so I don't have to bring them into my future, whether that's a future life experience or just into my future in this physical time-space reality. I have that right, and so do you. So remember, to create a spiritual boundary, you need to be able to invoke the ability to discern. And you have to do this from a very intentful place, a place of love and light, not of punishment. So if you're still at the part, of your journey where you're very angry, and that's normal, right? Anger is part of the healing process, right? We're on this continuum of emotions, and we've got to pass from hopelessness and depression onto, anger and then irritation. And if you keep going, eventually you'll meet a place where you let go and you experience more peace in your life. Setting a spiritual boundary is about knowing it's not about punishment. It's not about vengeance. It's about disciplining your mind so that you can figure out what you're doing wrong and what's preventing you from evolving into higher states of consciousness. So the first step to building a spiritual boundary is taking the time to identify what players in your life are not on the same path as you. It sounds really simple, but I can't tell you how many people that I've coached that don't take the time to do this inventory of relationships. And so what happens is, below the veil of consciousness, what we're doing is we are participating in these patterns, right? With relationships. We say the same things, we feel the same things, we behave the same way. And we recycle these feelings and these behaviors over and over and over and over. And we don't realize it. And you can be a spiritual warrior on the enlightened path and not be aware that you are stuck in a relationship dynamic like codependency, or love addiction, or any number of relationship issues. You can be stuck in that pattern and not even be aware of it. So if you're watching this video, it's not by accident. So what I'd like you to do is take some time and identify the players in your life and identify who you believe has the ability to grow. Who do you know in your life is willing to expand and evolve? Who do you know in your life that isn't willing to evolve? Who do you know that is absolutely living below the veil of consciousness? So take a moment to identify what relationships in your life are actually resonating with you and which ones are not. In terms of evolving and being able to set spiritual boundaries so that you can really feel confident in your own space and continue to evolve, we've got to be able to discern who we keep in our energy field and become responsible for that. So let's say you identify that your best friend is somewhat, we won't call her a complete narcissist, but let's say she's somebody who is more narcissistic than not. She's somebody who has no tolerance for other religions. She's somebody who is highly volatile. She's explosive. She's argumentative. And you've identified that this person is not on the same vibrational plane as you. So what do? So what we want to do if we want to learn how to set a spiritual boundary is we have to come into alignment, or at least surrender to what is. So we say namaste to this fact that you have acknowledged that you two are not resonating on the same frequency. We do not judge, we just see it. We acknowledge it, and then what we do is we decide what we want to do moving forward. Now, you have a couple of things that you can do. You can spend less time with this person. You can imagine her evolving. You can lift her up in love and light. But the key is to be able to begin unenmeshing and detaching from this person that perhaps your energy was very enmeshed with theirs. So just identifying the fact that you two do not resonate on the same frequency and may not be on the same evolved path will help you set a spiritual boundary. The second reason you might need to set a spiritual boundary is if you acknowledge or tend to feel ashamed or worried about what you think is true for you. I know with me, I've had these ideas about reincarnation. I've had these ideas about codependency. I've had these ideas about living above the veil and below the veil. I've had these ideas about us being born to evolve and to reach higher realms of consciousness and to eventually come to a place of oneness or unity consciousness. But I came from a very below the veil type family. I came from a family that lived in the darkness and absolutely below the veil. I came from a family that was full of codependency and adult children of alcoholic issues. And so I felt like an alien in this family. And eventually I realized that I did not have what I call a psycho-spiritual boundary in this regard. Because my mother and my father and my sister and my brother did not speak my own language, I really would slip. I would slip down the rabbit hole. I would think there was something wrong with me. I felt ashamed because I had these ideas. And since then, I've learned to let people go, and I've learned to accept and say namaste to other people who don't think the way I do. Even Anthony and I do not share the same ideas, but there's no conflict because there's love and there's respect. So he's able to stay in his space and I'm able to stay in my space. I respect where he's at and he respects where I'm at. And with that, there's this beautiful synchronicity and it just works. But I am no longer ashamed of or intimidated by what I believe is real. So if you're struggling to accept what you think is real, then you need what I call a psycho-spiritual boundary. So what that means is you've got to work on and see your codependency. You've got to see the patterns in your thinking which need to be pierced so that you can send love and light to these ideas that are keeping you stuck and in bondage. We want to move you to a place where you can merge with what you believe is true. And when you do, you'll be surprised at how many people you pull into your life and draw into your life that think just the way you do. In fact, look at the video you're watching right now. That should be evidence enough. The third reason you might need a spiritual boundary is if you discover that you're somebody who is being drained by what is happening around you. Are you overly sensitive to situations that you cannot control? Are you involved with people who have addictions, and are you trying to save them? Are you very sensitive to things that are happening in society that drain your ability to be this bright light? Pay attention to the things that you're focusing on. Be aware enough to be able to discern where you flow your focus. There are so many things on this planet that we can focus on that we cannot control, that will absolutely drain us. Absolutely drain us. We have to understand that we can focus on anything in this world, and whatever we focus on will expand. I know that there are terrible things that are going on in this country, but I also know that if I throw my hat into that ring and I get overly involved and I enmesh with that space, if I lose my ability to hold on to myself, if I lose my grasp of my boundaries, if I lose my ability to understand what I can control and what I can't control, it's very easy for me to enmesh with a situation and in a dynamic that is very powerful that I cannot control. If you are able to get to a point where you are able to cognitively recognize that you are spending a lot of time focusing on a situation or news stories or people that you cannot change, it's time for a boundary. So what do? You recognize that you're losing yourself inside a dynamic. I've been there so many times. I've tried to save couples, friends of mine who were going through some marital problems, and then I would think about them all day long. You know, I have personal issues with family members and I'd want to save them, and I find that I'm waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning thinking about what they're saying to their spouse or what they're saying to their child. I have family members that are doing things that are bad for their health, and I used to find myself obsessing about how I could save that person. What could I say to that person that might change their life? Eventually I realized that when I was losing myself to someone else's energy field, I wasn't helping them. When I was trying to change their path and their patterns, I wasn't helping them. The best thing that I could do was set a boundary for myself and lift them up in love and light. The best thing that I could do is be there for them when they wanted help. I realized I had to shutty, and I had to shine my light on people and wait for them to come to me. So if you find that you're losing yourself to situations and dynamics and people that you cannot change, dear one, it's time for a spiritual boundary. And remember, boundaries are not about punishing people. Boundaries are about us defining our space. It's about us understanding our energy field. It's about us respecting that we are on a particular journey, and so is every other soul. It's about us understanding that in this day, in this time, we have the ability as creators, as conscious beings who evolve past a lot of our old dark stuff. We can actually transcend a lot of our old patterns, codependency, living below the veil, narcissistic abuse. We can actually use the power of discernment, feel good about setting spiritual boundaries and sometimes physical boundaries. We can feel good about loving ourselves and saying namaste to the people who don't get us. We can feel good about gravitating towards groups and tribes of people that actually do get us. We can let go when people don't like us. We can let go. We can understand you're just not on my path, and that's okay. People who are abrasive are not on your path. If you're reaching for love and you're reaching for light, it's difficult to say namaste to people who are reaching for the darkness and want to pull you down. But it's part of your evolution. It's part of what you've come here to do. When you are able to define spiritual boundaries, it is such a gift. You are able to accelerate your personal growth. You are able to feel more love and more light in your body. It's absolutely amazing. So remember, once again, spiritual boundaries are not about punishment. It's about discerning. It's about loving the self and eventually being able to let go of other people, not out of anger, but out of love. And we allow people to figure out their own stuff. We appreciate that we are on our own soul's journey. We have our own evolution to go through, and so does everyone else. And we're allowing other people to figure out their stuff. And in the process, what we're doing is we're redefining our spiritual space or our energetic space or our vibrational space while we are physical beings in this very vibrational reality. I hope this has helped you understand spiritual boundaries and given you the power and the insight to love yourself. Namaste, dear ones. Until next time. Bye for now. Namaste, dear ones. Thank you so much for joining me on this video and for wishing to learn more about spiritual boundaries. I just wanted to take a moment to let you all know that I have created a monthly membership site that is full of programs and tools and resources, which include meditations and some of my programs that I have for sale on my website. I hold monthly live streams in a private Facebook group, and there are members-only benefits. So please, if you're interested in joining a community of people who are interested in tools, who are interested in absolutely healing and moving beyond our childhood programming, please check it out at https://bit.ly/Lisa A. Romano. Namaste, dear ones. Bye for now.